proposed declaration of war against Rothschild Khazarian Mafia. A plan to declare war on the Rothschild Khazarian Mafia and eradicate its espionage and penetration of America. By Preston James and Mike Harris. Before America can embark on a national mission to eradicate the influence of the Rothschild Khazarian Mafia, RKM, in America, it is important to understand its incredibly evil hidden history. All Americans need to know that the Rothschild Khazarian Mafia, RKM, is based on a secret death cult, ancient Babylonian Talmudism, aka Kabbalism, Luciferianism, Satanism, Sabbatianism, Frankism. Only by knowing the sinister origin and core belief system of the RKM can we understand why the RKM is hell-bent on systematically infiltrating and destroying each and every society and nation on Earth. We know for certain that the RKM is planning on mass murdering 90% of all humans, unless they are stopped, and this intention has been admitted by RKM officials in public documents. Even more than this, the RKM has actually carved their sinister death cult intentions in stone on an expensive granite monument, the Georgia Guidestones. All Americans need to understand that the Rothschild Khazarian Mafia, RKM, is by far the world's biggest parasitical invading organism in history that sucks the lifeblood out of any host country until mass death of the citizenry and the nation itself is attained. Left unabated, the RKM parasite will destroy each host country it has infested and, if unabated, will eventually destroy the whole world. As the truth about the RKM diffuses to the world by the internet and word of mouth, soon the whole world and all nations and people will understand that a major global war against the RKM must be declared and waged. As the truth about this world's largest parasite of mankind spreads to every nation, folks everywhere will come to understand that mankind's biggest enemy is the Rothschild Khazarian Mafia, RKM, which intentionally destroys every culture, nation and society that it comes to infest. As the people of the world come to understand this RKM evil, all people even from different cultures and nations will be motivated to come together with this one, single objective, to eradicate the RKM's infiltration, hijacking and control over almost every nation of the world. To eradicate the RKM chieftain's grip on America and most of the world, we must decapitate the RKM from its elastic, endless fiat counterfeit supply of funny money debt notes. We know for certain that in order to do this effectively and in the shortest time possible, the RKM will have to be decapitated from its counterfeit and endless self-produced money supply, and in order to do this, the RKM's unconstitutional Federal Reserve System will have to be eliminated by the USG and a new American bank set up in the U.S. Department of the Treasury. This cannot be done until Americans take back Congress and drive out those who have taken the required IPAC loyalty oath to Israel. All IPAC Israeli influence peddling of Congress must be stopped cold, and all members of Congress who signed these treasonous, seditious IPAC loyalty oaths to Israel must be voted out and fully prosecuted for espionage against America. Former Congresswoman Cynthia McKinney has reported to several sources that all newly elected members of Congress are given an IPAC loyalty oath to Israel to sign. If they refused, a well-financed opponent would run against them, in most cases preventing re-election. She refused to sign it and lost her re-election campaign. If we the people can successfully decapitate the RKM from its endless, elastic money supply manufactured by their private Federal Reserve System banksters, this means these banksters will no longer be allowed to lend citizens RKM debt notes at pernicious interest. This will remove the main source of money and power for the RKM and will immediately stop any more accumulation of fraudulent public USG debt. If we eliminate the illegal, unconstitutional private RKM fiat debt note-based funny money and the illegal, unconstitutional federal income tax, we can increase our purchasing power by approximately 40%. When the completely illegal federal income tax is eliminated and a new real and honest American money system owned by we the people is activated, this will immediately increase American purchasing power by approximately 40%, because that is the approximate amount of the American consumers' prices are inflated by because of this two-part theft, phony fiat debt notes loaned at pernicious usury and illegal, unconstitutional federal income taxes. Let's face it, no sane person would pay a foreign bankster pernicious interest to use what is fraudulently presented as their own money and turns out to be counterfeit banknote loans backed by nothing real by sleight of hand money fraud like Bernie Madoff, the man who made off with billions, but only got caught because he didn't foresee the speed of the recession coming upon America in 2007. How do like having retail prices inflated by 40% for nothing by the private RKM banksters charging pernicious usury to you for using their money. Once you understand that approximately 40% of all retail prices at the grocery store and other stores is based on paying these RKM foreign banksters pernicious usury for using what should have been your own money in the first place, it is easy to become enraged at how you and all Americans have been ripped off and financially defrauded by the RKM banksters since 1913. In order to stop the RKM cult, the best way to do so is to bring every nation of the world into an international global war against the RKM, which we know for certain is the world's most powerful death cult and life-sucking anti-human parasite that ever existed. In order to be truly successful, this must be an international war against the Khazarian Mafia, with all nations of the world ganged up against the RKM. Why is this? Because the RKM is the most sinister organized crime syndicate that has ever existed, and it has infiltrated almost every nation and has tentacles that reach into almost every government. Many leaders are bribed, human compromised or blackmailed by the RKM. Those who don't acquiesce are secretly murdered. And we know that the RKM has planted stolen nukes in 25 American cities and in every large capital of Europe, and has been threatening to set them off as a part of their Samson option. This has certainly helped keep the leaders they control in line, and is described as Israel's nuclear blackmail. It is important to understand how RKM chieftains differ from normal human beings. RKM chieftains either were born without human souls or lost them along the way. Normal humans, unless they are hardcore complete sociopaths, tend to have a conscience and will feel shame when they do wrong against others. These RKM chieftains never feel any shame for harming others, rather this makes them feel pleasure. They capitalize on others' ability to feel shame and orient much of their engineering of governmental policies to create as much shame in those peoples they are oppressing and asset stripping. They learned long ago that, if they can provoke folks to do things wrong using Hollywoodism and the controlled major mass media, CMMM, this will help destroy character and moral strength in a people and make it far easier to corrupt them and control them. Thus, you find the RKM chieftains, kingpins and cutouts inevitably involved in proliferating extreme forms of perversion and pornography few would feel comfortable running, and they do this for big profits. These folks are running a culture war against all Americans, strip their character and manipulate them to lose their integrity. Before we can discuss an effective strategy to arrest, convict and jail the RKM, we must discuss how the RKM proceeded to infiltrate and hijack America beginning in 1913. Wilson Federal Reserve. It is indisputable fact that the United States of America was first infiltrated by the RKM beginning in 1913 when the illegal, unconstitutional Federal Reserve System established a beachhead in America. Once the monetary production and distribution beachhead was established in America in 1913, the RKM proceeded to progressively infiltrate and hijack every single American institution bit by bit, usually one at a time, but sometimes simultaneously in groups. The illegal and unconstitutional Federal Reserve Act was passed in 1913 by bribing weak members of the U.S. Congress to betray their country and manipulating an illegal vote on Christmas Eve even with no proper quorum present. This fraudulent bill was signed into law by a compromised, corrupt president, who was willing to betray his country for banksters' money. Once the RKM succeeded in setting up their fraudulent money production and distribution machine, the world's biggest counterfeiting scheme, then these criminal banksters proceeded to buy, bribe and own almost every congressperson, most USG officials, and almost the entire judiciary, as well as most military high command. And while the RKM used their massive elastic checkbook of phony counterfeit money to infiltrate and hijack all American politics, They also charged dumbed-down Americans illegal, pernicious interest, actually illegal usury, for using what should have been their own money in the first place. Making money from nothing and backing it with nothing but the enforced taxes of its captive customers is nothing less than modern-day secret slavery and has been the greatest financial fraud in history and is major eco-crime. Of course these RKM foreign-based banksters created their own money from nothing and lent it to Americans, charging pernicious usury. This of course was a very devilish and crafty trick and must be considered the greatest financial crime in history and provided the great money power to then infiltrate, consolidate and hijack all the major mass media in America, forming their own illegal, unconstitutional news cartel, a secret illegal news and media monopoly best referred to as the CMMM. Obviously, the CMMM should have been broken up long ago under antitrust laws. But when the U.S. Congress, the administration, the U.S. Department of Justice and the courts are owned by the RKM lock, stock and barrel, this has been an impossibility. Once the RKM gained control over the American money production and distribution, gained control over almost every member of Congress, all presidential candidates who would be elected, and even the major mass media, they were able to seize control over almost every aspect of American life, including the educational curricula at every level of education. The RKM succeeded in hijacking the major mass media in America, then consolidated it, and then converted it into their main propaganda machine deployed against the American people to mind control them to support whatever policies their top RKM chieftains desired. Once the RKM was able to effectively consolidate and thereby control CMMM and their main propaganda machine, similar to what existed in the former Soviet Union, which is owned and controlled by only 6 RKM kingpins. Technically this control over the 6 major mass media news corporations has transformed this RKM CMMM into an illegal monopoly, best described as an illegal news cartel designed and operated to mind control the American people and feed them a continuing stream of USG lies, false narratives and USG propaganda needed to support the RKM's sinister agenda for America. The RKM has worked hard to remove its history from libraries and history books because, once known by the public, they would become targeted for destruction for all the millions of rapes, tortures and mass murders of invasion and war they have perpetrated. The RKM has thus restricted the access of ordinary Americans to what the real truth about the RKM is, where they came from, and their deadly agenda is, which is to asset strip, oppress, tyrannize and disarm America, and then transform America into Gaza too, the world's largest open-air prison camp where Americans can be mass murdered at will, like the Palestinians. The RKM's secret goal is to create a RKM apartheid in America against we the people. What the RKM did to the people of Russia during the Bolshevik Revolution was not so much a revolution, but an act of torture, mass murder, and asset stripping of Russian wealth. This is best described as international piracy and parasitism, and Mike Harris was the first to discuss this realistically for what it is, RKM vengeful mass murder against the Russians for having driven the Khazarian rulers out of Khazaria around 1200 AD. We know that the RKM was behind the horrific mass, rape and genociding of 1.5 million Armenians in 1915–1917. Revenge by annihilation, no matter how long it takes, is always the #1 motive for the RKM. It is important to understand that the main motives that drive the RKM are hate and revenge, best exemplified in their Bolshevik Red Terror and Cheka rape, torture and mass murder of 22 million innocent Russians between 1917–1919, followed by approximately another 80 million murders of innocents until the Iron Curtain fell. This was also exemplified by the Hellstorm and mass rapes, tortures and mass murders of innocent Germans by Russians at the end of WW2. The RKM greatly fears retaliation by the whole world, if the public finds out who they are and how they operate. This is why the RKM's #1 goal is secrecy, followed by bribery of officials, human compromise, human child sacrifice and pedophilia, while always projecting blame for all they are actually doing by accusing innocent others of their own major sins, and then proactively attacking others as an effective defense. Because ordinary mainstream Americans and the world public have had truth denied them by the RKM's CMMM, they will only learn the truth about the RKM and its sinister death cult agenda by either word of mouth or the Internet's alternative media. Until recently, the alternative media was looked on as fringe or conspiracy nutcase information. Now, thanks to the worldwide Internet, the New Gutenberg Press, truth is being published and broadcast to almost every nation of the world and is diffusing to mainstream. This of course alarms the RKM, which is in a panic. To counter this diffusion of the truth about what they are, where they came from, the RKM has set up numerous shill websites. But, in order to get any readers, they have had to use a limited hangout approach, hoping to rope readers in using 60 to 80% of the truth, followed by a bad payload to mislead folks away from the truth. RKM stooge misinformation websites, who use the popular limited hangouts, with occasional misleading payloads approach, are failing because web users have become so sophisticated that they select out the truth nuggets from many websites and connect the dots themselves, and ignore the bad payloads. These increasingly astute readers are then able to connect all the truth nugget dots into fairly sound conclusions. As truth is disseminated across the world and to many Americans for the first time, there appears to a serious accelerating in the rate of information transmission and absorption, much to the dismay of the RKM chieftains and crime bosses. Once the crimes of the RKM in America have been explained in detail so that they can be easily understood, then a plan to officially declare war on this enemy of America can be formulated. What follows is a detailed description of the actual crimes of the RKM against America, the Republic, and all Americans, and what can be done about it by we the people. This listing will then be used as part of a recommended declaration of war for the USG against the RKM using the U.S. military. In this way, all American military might be brought to bear against the RKM, the true enemy within the gates of America. Eagle, Declaration of War against the Rothschild Khazarian Mafia, RKM, by we the people in the Constitutional Republic of the United States of America, after over 100 years of abuse, including treason, sedition, and the ordered murder of numerous Americans with effective and patriotic leadership and leadership potential, and after a full range of financial fraud and debt and tax slavery-type crimes against we the people, and because of all the numerous organized crime abuses enacted against we the people by the world's largest organized criminal cabal, the RKM, we the people can no longer endure the multifaceted abuse and secret crimes of the RKM. Therefore, because these abuses against we the people can no longer be tolerated, we the people who constitute the United States of America, hereby declare war against the world's largest organized crime cabal, the RKM, which has infiltrated America, hijacked our American institutions of government, and is now waging a secret asymmetrical war against we the people and the Republic of the United States of America. Note the following list of offenses of the Rothschild Khazarian Mafia, RKM, against we the people and the Republic of the United States of America, which clearly violates our United States Constitution and Bill of Rights, numerous federal laws and current RICO criminal and civil law, and the appropriate remedies to defeat this enemy within our gates that has been waging a secret war against we the people in the United States of America since 1913. This criminal cabal, the Rothschild Khazarian Mafia, RKM, that has deeply infiltrated America, has done so by illegally and unconstitutionally hijacking our monetary production and distribution system, has charged us pernicious interest, usury, to use our own money, and deflated its value to steal our freedoms, property, our assets, and the fruits of our labors. This RKM crime cabal has hijacked most of the United States government by bribing, blackmailing, intimidating, and human compromising many members of Congress, numerous USG officials, all administrations since JFK, and deeply infiltrated American law enforcement, American intel, and the U.S. judicial system. This RKM organized crime cabal has induced and/or recruited these traitorous individuals and officials of the U.S. government to violate their oaths of office to the U.S. Constitution, in which they swore to defend the United States of America, the Republic, against all enemies, both foreign and domestic. The RKM bribes and manipulates new members of Congress to sign an IPAC loyalty oath to Israeli, or IPAC will provide big funding to an opponent preventing their re-election, thus a complete subversion of the American political process. Those in the U.S. government that comply with the RKM's manipulations and coercions get highly rewarded for their crimes, treason and sedition against we the people and the United States of America the Republic. If they refuse, they face engineered ruin, an election, oppressions, trashing in the media for secret sins, or even assassination. These RKM-owned USG traitors to their oaths of office have become part of an RKM, Israeli-run foreign espionage force that has covertly invaded the Republic and has been waging a covert, asymmetrical war against we the people with the intent to asset-stripping we the people of all our wealth, property and the fruits of our labor. These traitorous elements within the USA who have essentially sold out to the RKM or its cutouts have become the domestic enemies of we the people, our constitutional republic and the state they have sworn to defend, and thus must be removed from office and fully prosecuted for the crimes of espionage against we the people in the United States of America. The RKM has accrued vast financial assets and power by using illegal unconstitutional taxation and manipulation of the value of their fraudulent fiat debt notes they present as real constitutional money when it is clearly not. This RKM criminal cabal has hijacked American intel and frequently uses it to impose a false cloak of secrecy by illegally invoking national security as cover for such serious crimes defined as major RICO crimes under federal law and a whole bevy of felony federal and state crimes. Drug trafficking is one good example of how national security is used to cover crimes against the American people. In the process of betraying their oaths of office, these traitorous and seditious U.S. government officials have become enemies of the state within the gates of America and part of a foreign-controlled espionage system run by the City of London Rothschild world Zionist bankers and certain world Zionist leaders of Israel. These enemies inside the gates of America include most members of Congress and many bankers who have used laundered drug money and other money defrauded from the American people to provide illegal support for Israeli, BCC, and Saudi synthetic terror groups which are waging war against American soldiers and other soldiers of Mideast nations. This is done to concoct synthetic engineered wars by creating an enemy so that the RKM banks and RKM-associated defense contractors can make huge profits. This RKM aka Rothschild world Zionist banking cartel has used their money power to create an associated criminal cabal through the Scherf crime family in America, later to become the Bush crime family or Bush crime cabal, BCC. In the early 1960s this crime cabal fully infiltrated and seized control over the Central Intelligence Agency using Rothschild bankers' money power and went on to mastermind and run the assassination of President John F. Kennedy on behalf of the world Zionist bankers and their associates world Zionist leaders of Israel. This crime cabal has come to be labeled the RKM, the largest, wealthiest, most powerful criminal syndicate in the world. After the Bush crime cabal, BCC, successfully assassinated President John F. Kennedy, they combined forces with the RKM. There can no longer be any reasonable doubt that this RKM has been waging a serious asymmetrical war against we the people and the United States of America the Republic since its 1913 invasion. The intensity of the RKM's attacks and tyranny have waxed and waned but have greatly intensified since 2001 when the RKM used Israel and raiders within the U.S. defense establishment and the administration to attack America on September 11, 2001. The RKM used its Israeli cutouts to place stolen nuclear devices in the NYC Twin Trade Towers and also flew a cruise missile into the Pentagon to destroy the Able Danger secret investigation of nukes stolen and trafficked by Israeli operatives, thus murdering most of the Able Danger investigators who were called in by Donald Rumsfeld for an emergency meeting at the Pentagon in the area targeted for destruction. It is known beyond any reasonable doubt that the RKM's Israeli cutouts took the leading role in the attack on America on September 11, 2001 with the Bush crime cabal taking a supportive cover-up role. It is known beyond any reasonable doubt that the RKM has used Israeli cutouts to blackmail the Bush II administration into allowing them to consolidate American alphabets, intel and law enforcement into one large Stasi-type police state security force, secret police occupation army, under direct control of the RKM through these Israeli cutouts. After over 100 years of abuses, of which include treason, sedition, murder and numerous organized crime abuses of a major organized crime cabal, the RKM, that can no longer be endured, we the people who constitute the United States of America hereby declare war against this very large organized crime cabal and those RKM chieftains, kingpins and cutouts who operate on their behalf. In the process of betraying their oaths of office, numerous traitorous and seditious U.S. government officials have become enemies of the state within the gates of America and part of a foreign-controlled RKM, Israeli espionage system run by the City of London Rothschild world Zionist bankers and certain world Zionist leaders of Israel. This RKM world Zionist Rothschild banking cartel has used their money power to create an associated criminal cabal through the Sheriff crime family, identified as the Bush crime cabal. In the early 1960s, this crime cabal fully infiltrated and seized control over the Central Intelligence Agency using Rothschild bankers' money power, and went on to use Bush I to run the assassination of President John F. Kennedy on behalf of the world Zionist bankers and their associated RKM Israeli cutouts. This RKM is the largest, wealthiest and most powerful criminal syndicate in the world. This consolidated Israeli police state security force called Homeland Security, DHS, is actually the foreign occupation army of Israel that has been created inside the United States of America, the Republic, and has been deployed to asset strip, tyrannize, terrorize, intern and systematically mass murder 90% of all Americans by their own internal documents. Homeland Security was set up and is run by Israeli-American Israeli first dual citizens whose first loyalty is to Israel and the RKM. Israeli nuclear blackmail, Samson option, was used to coerce the administration and Congress to cooperate with the creation of Homeland Security, which involved the consolidation of all American law enforcement and alphabets into one central command structure run by Israel. This is best described as a secret police Israeli occupation army inside America. Israeli leaders hired former East German Stasi head Marcus Wolf to set up Homeland Security to be as much like the Stasi as possible. It is for these reasons and many more, the many offenses and abuses of the RKM against we the people and many years of their violation of the U.S. Constitution and Bill of Rights and purposeful destruction of our rule of law at every level of American society, we the people and the United States of America, the Constitutional Republic, hereby declare full-scale war against all elements of the RKM and its subordinate the Bush crime cabal. We the people will deploy every means of war against the RKM and all its elements and members. 1. This war commences using the American military, which has a clear constitutional right to wage war against the RKM. A period of 72 hours will be given for RKM chieftains, kingpins and cutouts to surrender to designated U.S. magistrates who have been appointed to serve under emergency constitutional rule. Those who do not surrender will be arrested. If they resist, they will be subdued by any means. Indictments and arrest warrants will be issued listing probable cause and witnesses, and these perps will be hunted down to the ends of the earth and brought back unless they immediately surrender. Those who can be taken into custody alive will be brought before an appointed military tribunal and tried for RICO crimes and espionage against America, including treason and sedition and anything else seized. Intel records show. The NSA and CIA are acknowledged as foreign entities that have been hijacked by the RKM and will be given 72 hours to surrender. Their facilities will be surrounded by the U.S. 1st and 5th Armies and, if necessary, attacked by the U.S. Army, the USAF and special operatives. Hundreds of heroic special ops have been abused, lied to, jailed on trumped fake charges to discredit them and prevent them from testifying against the RKM. Many of these will desire to go to war against the RKM if given the opportunity by the Joint Chiefs of Staff, as many will be willing to volunteer to do so under this declaration of war. These men will be offered re-enlistment to join this war effort against the RKM. All NSA and CIA documents will be seized and compared to those which Russia has offered to provide from their intel operations against the RKM and Israeli Likudists, which hijacked the NSA and received direct satellite downloads of all raw NSA intercepts and digital data. All foreign aid to Israel will be immediately stopped due to the illegality to give aid to nations having a secret nuclear arsenal, especially one based on theft of American nukes. Israel has deployed them secretly in acts of criminal terrorism and mass murder all over the world. All contracts with Israeli intel-run DoD and communications providers operating inside the United States of America will be immediately and permanently cancelled. This seized NSA evidence will be used to go all the way back to Vietnam and try anyone still alive who participated in illegal narcotics trafficking then and up until and including the present, as well as all joint cabal assassinations and bank bust-out operations like the saving and loan fraud and theft, the Enron fraud and theft debacle, and the MERS home mortgage fraud and theft. Those members of the RKM or those receiving or who have received such or other forms of bribes who surrender may be given immunity if they come clean 100% and give up all their illegally gained assets freely. Those who do not will be tried by a military tribunal and dealt with very seriously as a spy according to existing espionage laws, which in most cases requires capital punishment as the Rosenbergs received. Only this time a firing squad or hanging on wooden gallows will be used for execution, with the choice being made by the Provost Marshal's office in consultation with the chief officer of the military tribunal trying the arrestee upon conviction. Trials will be conducted within 30 days unless mitigating circumstances are recognized by the Provost Marshal's office and the chief officer of the military tribunal. The Federal Reserve System will be immediately seized and put out of business by the U.S. military, and all principals that do not surrender will be arrested and imprisoned with trials before a military tribunal according to the U.S. Constitution and the laws governing treason and sedition as well as RICO. All national debt related to the Federal Reserve System's charging we the people to use their own money will be immediately declared null and void. All assets will be immediately seized and transferred back to the U.S. Department of the Treasury, which will be immediately reconstituted and will create a true and honest central bank owned by we the people with no interest charged for using our own currency, which will be backed by gold, silver and hard assets. This new, real U.S. central bank will be set up to incorporate as many local community banks and bank chains, and credit unions will be preserved, but they will have to comply with the new rules and policies set up. Any interest charged for car loans and home loans or any other kind of loans will be limited to 4% or less and must be non-usury. Absolutely no dual or triple or multiple citizenships will be allowed anymore under any circumstances. Or can any of these individual or their progeny ever be allowed to hold public office. All such multiple citizens who wish to stay must be proved clear of espionage, treason, sedition, or RICO crimes and will be forever barred from any state, local or federal government positions. Those who are clean of such offenses will be allowed to take a loyalty oath to the United States of America, the constitutional republic, or otherwise will be deported, but in no way will they or any of their progeny ever be allowed to hold public office of any type. English will be the designated language for all government entities and all public schools, and no special public school programs for other languages such as special immersion programs which are wasteful and harm the society. All borders will be cut off and patrolled 100% with an automatic reset back to the immigration laws present at the time President John F. Kennedy was murdered until suitable new ones can be considered and passed. All free trade treaties will be immediately declared null and void, illegal and unconstitutional. And fair trade will be restored with adequate tariffs set on imports to favor American manufacturers. Any corporation who has moved abroad but conducts a lot of sales inside America will be barred from operating inside the United States of America, and all their assets will be seized and held by the military tribunal for use to benefit we the people. Corporations will lose all rights of personhood, and any law in any court of the land that is judged obviously unconstitutional by the regional, designated military tribunal will be immediately declared null and void. Corporations will no longer be treated legally as persons, and all these usurped rights will be immediately removed, and any corporate conglomerates which intel shows to have used unfair restraint of trade practices or conspiring against the American consumer will be broken up under existing antitrust laws. Corporate violations of law will be charged against the CEO/CFO or principal responsible and anyone else who actually violated the law. All those imprisoned for non-violent drug crimes will be immediately released, and their records expunged, some placed under short-term probation as deemed necessary. Those who have served their sentences and/or probation for these minor offenses will have their records purged. Special MD physician boards of 10 in each state of the Union will be set up, each with at least one addiction specialist, one psychiatrist, one PhD-level psychologist and one MSW social worker, each non-affiliated with any pharmaceutical manufacturer, to suggest federal drug policy which will be generally recognized as an independent states' rights issue. The federal government will make most drugs legal, but each state of the Union will have to decide which specific drugs will be allowed to be sold or MD prescribed. And each state will be encouraged to set up controlled drug sales supervised by medical authorities for addicting, habituating substances and opiate-type drugs, and such addicting, habituating drugs will be handled with prescribed medical treatment. Any foreign or domestic drug cartels, including those run or which operate in association with the RKM, the Mossad or the BCC, CIA, will be given 72 hours to completely disband and discontinue all trafficking into the USA or any of its territories, and if as indicated by NRO satellites a major aerial and ground attack will be instituted against these cartels wherever they are located until they are eradicated and all stateside controllers, members and assets are arrested and tried for these capital crimes. The Department of Homeland Security, DHS, will be immediately disbanded, and all employees who did not violate their oath to the U.S. Constitution and who did not commit any crimes, treason, sedition or RICO offenses in association with any component of the RKM will be reassigned to their own prior agency, which will be made independent once again. The TSA will be immediately disbanded, and all airports and airlines will be responsible for their own security systems. All assets of the RKM and their Federal Reserve System will be seized, and inside America this is comprised of many trillions of dollars worth of commercial real estate bought with the massive illegal narcotics and arms trafficking and illegal bust-outs and frauds against the U.S. government will be clawed back and distributed evenly to we the people. All secret bases such as Areas 51, 52, Papoose Lake, and deep underground military bases will be given 72 hours to surrender or will be attacked by every single U.S. military asset and seized, including the seizure and exposure of all secrets and secret records and technology. No more secret underground bases will be allowed to be built, and all existing ones will be evaluated for allowed continued existence, but if so will be made open to all of we the people. Anyone involved in any false flag attacks or illegal, unconstitutional, inhuman, crimes against humanity, biomedical or MKUltra type mind control experiments, including ultra-high-tech psychotronics deployed against we the people, will be arrested if they do not surrender within the 72-hour period. No more Wi-Fi will be allowed in any public facility due to the mind control brain entrainment risks, cancer risks, and risk of harming developing children and adults too. We the people may petition the various state governors to deploy their national guards and specially appointed militia groups which have been assembled to wage total war against the Khazarian Mafia at all levels of society within each state after the surrender period expires for those who have not surrendered. The Khazarian Mafia kingpins, chieftains, crime bosses, major cutouts and their families will be hunted down inside America at every level and to the ends of the earth, and all their assets will be seized from every member, associate or beneficiary who received bribes or payoffs. Upon this day, 2015, it is hereby declared that no longer will we the people and the legitimate United States of America, the constitutional republic, allow the RKM to exist in America or anywhere in the world, or any of its associated drug cartels or their paid-off, bribed politicians in Mexico, Central or South America or any other nation anywhere in the world. American military assets will be deployed to attack and destroy these entities if they do not surrender during the surrender period. White flags must be displayed, otherwise aerial attacks and special op ground attacks should be expected and destruction and annihilation to follow. Let it be declared by the power of the constitutional republic that no longer will any corruption or special legislation associated with the corruption and crimes of the RKM or any of its components, members, or associates be allowed to continue or exist in any form. Because Ronald Reagan was the last duly elected president, and all others were fraudulent, and all U.S. laws passed after are null and void, all laws will be reset back to what was on the books at that time, and this will be done by a military tribunal set up to do so. This same military tribunal will set special elections for Congress, and this will include most positions, since most are members, associates or beneficiaries of the Khazarian Mafia, and will be removed from office one way or another, either by voluntary surrender or arrest by the Provost Marshal's office. It is recognized beyond any reasonable doubt that most U.S. national, state and local elections have been plagued by vote fraud, especially manipulation of electronic vote totals. All future voting will be by paper ballot only and will be hand-counted and hand-tabulated with public observation allowed behind glass, and all counting completely and fully video recorded to protect from fraud. All electronic voting machines will be declared illegal and taken out of service. All senators will be elected by each state legislature as was originally prescribed by the U.S. Constitution. The Department of Education and Health will be immediately phased out, with functions to be handled by individual states according to their own laws. Every single U.S. department will be carefully examined. Those unnecessary or unconstitutional will be eliminated and many streamlined and culled of all unnecessary functions. Many responsibilities will be transferred back to the individual states according to the principles defined in the U.S. Constitution according to the 10th Amendment. The fraudulent amendments, the 16th and 17th, which were never ratified, will be immediately cancelled. The Federal Reserve Acts will be immediately cancelled, since it was never passed with a proper quorum. The Internal Revenue Service will be declared null and void because the Federal Reserve is recognized as a fraud perpetrated upon we the people. A special board of taxation will be set up to consider constitutionally allowed, proportioned taxes, excise taxes on imports with new fair trade agreements and tariffs, and will coordinate efforts with the Government Accounting Office. The so-called national debt owed to the Federal Reserve System will be declared fraudulent, and null and void. Notice to Rothschild Khazarian Mafia kingpins: we the people know who you are by name, we know what you have done, all the espionage, and felonious and RICO crimes against we the people. We know about your sophisticated pedophile operations against American politicians, along with your massive illegal narcotics and weapons trafficking for illegal and massive profits. We the people have enough hard corroborated evidence against you to convict you beyond any reasonable doubt in any honest federal court of the land. But because there are none, as you have corrupted them all, we the people are setting up our own using constitutional law as our guide. You, the RKM, have fought a secret, asymmetrical war against we the people and all normal humanity that has existed in American society with the intent to asset strip us of all our wealth, property and fruits of our labor, rob and murder us of our God-given freedoms, and reduce us to your chattel and slaves. We know about all your pedophile operations and murders of many children and massive human sex trafficking. For your crimes against this country and its people, you, the RKM, will be made to pay a price and will find no sanctuary anywhere in the world, because we the people are going to expose you by name along with your specific pedophile and human trafficking crimes and murders. For these crimes against we the people and humanity in general, you will be hunted down and captured so that you can no longer use your fiat money power and pernicious usury to enslave us. You, the RKM, its chieftains, kingpins, cutouts and assets have hijacked and debased the major mass media at every level and placed many top newscasters and reporters on your payroll or the payroll of your cutouts. All 6 major mass media conglomerates have been judged to be illegal cartels, monopolies, and will be completely broken up forever. Because of the importance of honest investigative reporting and news to we the people and the health of our American society, false, paid-for reporting and cover-up or accessory to crimes against we the people will be considered a major crime henceforth. You, the RKM chieftains, kingpins, cutouts and assets have used secrecy, bribery, coercion and blackmail to stay in power. All your deeds and crimes and who you are will be fully exposed. Your reign of terror and imposed slavery is over, you will be extracted from power at every level, and all your takings and holding will be confiscated and clawed back from anywhere in the world they exist. You have worked hard to deny us our constitutional rights, and this can no longer be tolerated. The United States of America contain natural and human resources and wealth beyond measure which you have worked hard to extract from we the people, and this will no longer be tolerated by you or anyone else. There will be no more secrecy in America or for you, the RKM and your organized crime syndicate. No more illegitimate criminal power in America or anywhere else in the world will be allowed, even where you may attempt to escape to. We will root you, the RKM, its chieftains, kingpins, cutouts and assets out, and forever remove any and all of your influence from we the people and the United States of America, our constitutional republic. You, the RKM, have used secrecy, bribery, coercion and blackmail to stay in power. All your deeds and who you are will be shouted from the rooftops of every American city, and all your crimes will be fully exposed. Your reign of terror and imposed slavery is over, and you will be extracted from power at every level, and all your takings and holding will be confiscated and clawed back from anywhere in the world they exist. You have worked hard to deny us our constitutional right to life, liberty and the pursuit of happiness, and this can no longer be tolerated. The United States of America contain natural and human resources and wealth beyond measure which you have worked hard to extract from we the people, and this will no longer be tolerated by you or anyone else. Should the President of the United States fail to sign this as an emergency executive order, the U.S. High Military Command will be justified in seizing power and implementing this declaration of war under their emergency powers provided by the U.S. Constitution, because infiltration and hijacking of America clearly constitutes foreign espionage against America, which triggers an actual national security emergency, and the powers provided by the U.S. Constitution to deal with it using the U.S. military. This espionage transfers full authority to the U.S. military high command if the President of the United States fails to act, or if he is corrupted by the RKM or its partner the BCC, CIA to act, as required by rule of law and his oath to uphold the U.S. Constitution and Bill of Rights.